Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. Are we getting movement in Washington, or are we getting lip service in Washington when it comes to ultimately putting those responsible for Obama's collusion, the frame job of President Trump, the Epstein case, putting these deep state insiders in jail? That's what we want, right? In many respects, I'm tired of saying we want people held accountable. No, I want more than that. I want people to go to jail for the crimes committed against America and these poor victims of Jeffrey Epstein. So there are some things happening that are very good. We've got a grand jury now tasked to look into the Obama collusion, Trump frame job over Russia. We've got a grand jury formed to look into Jack Smith and his persecution of President Trump over January 6th. We now have subpoenas issued to 10 of the who's who of the deep state. You have almost every previous attorney's general. You've got Bill and Hillary Clinton. You've got Jeff Sessions, as I mentioned, James Comey, a whole slew of these deep staters called in to be asked questions about Jeffrey Epstein. But why behind closed doors? It's as if Republicans don't learn. We don't want this behind closed doors. We want this out in the open. We want these people to answer for their crimes or what they know about crimes in public and in front of the world. And if they take the Fifth Amendment, then I want to see that on camera. Instead, in many respects, they're given a pass by going behind closed doors. So we're going to talk about all of this, all right, today on the program, including the one man who was not subpoenaed, which tells me that maybe members of Congress on the Oversight Committee don't really want to get to the truth about what happened with Epstein, because there's one man who needs to be subpoenaed. We will talk about that today on the program. Before we do that, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. Now is the time to invest in gold if there ever was one. We've got China buying gold at a record pace. The war on the dollar is absolutely insane. Stock market is up and down pretty good, but gold continues to rise. Why? Because it's all about a chaos hedge, an inflation hedge, a drama queen hedge. And we know there's a lot of drama going on throughout the world. So as I watch this war on the U.S. dollar unfold, as I watch BRICS nations start to try to wage a Pearl Harbor of the U.S. dollar, I'm thinking, where should you put some money? Gold looks like a pretty good investment. Colonial Metals Group can help you. Just log on and go to freegoldguide.com/grant. That's freegoldguide.com/grant, 800-458-7356. Or just take a picture of the QR code up there in the corner of your screen. I like the guys at Colonial Metals Group a lot. You can trust them. This is a great diversification move. It's a great portfolio protection maneuver. freegoldguide.com/grant. You can trust the folks at Colonial Metals. All right. Time now to start the program.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, so I guess if you're like me, you're happy to see we're getting some traction in Washington, D.C. Traction when it comes to, we got grand jury cases for the Obama collusion, Trump frame job over Russia. We've got grand jury called for Jack Smith, who was running that illegal persecution of President Trump. I don't even know how the man was appointed. Get to the bottom of that. And then we've got 10 subpoenas issued to the who's who of the deep state when it comes to the Epstein case. But there's one man who is not on the list, a gentleman by the name of Alex Acosta. Alex Acosta was the U.S. attorney down in Florida when Epstein was going through the first round of legal troubles. He could have faced a whole slew, decades in prison. Instead, he was given basically time served, about a year in prison, and basically a slap on the wrist. Why? Acosta had been known to have said that the intelligence community came to him as U.S. attorney and said, hey, we need this guy. He's an intelligence asset for us. Well, if that's true, then why would Pam Bondi say, I have no knowledge of him being an asset, when clearly in the grand jury transcripts, in the notes of the U.S. attorney back then, you would have all of this, I would think, written out. So we need to ask Alex Acosta questions, yet he was left off the list. Why? To me, it tells me they don't want answers. To me, it tells me, is this just lip service? I don't want to believe it is. I want to believe that a guy like James Comer is well-intentioned, and I think he is. I know James Comer over the years. I've interviewed him a few times. I'm not as close to him as I am to other members of Congress, but I think him to be an upstanding guy. I just look back at history, and we've seen a lot of stuff happen, but nothing get done. Understand? So what is at play there when it comes to not calling Alex Acosta and then having this behind closed doors? Why are we behind closed doors on one of the most high-profile cases in America today, on something the MAGA crowd desperately wants answers for, and we're going to let Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Bill Barr and Holder and Gonzalez, Jeff Sessions, James Comey, we're going to all let them be behind closed doors, free from cameras? And if they take the fifth, I want that on camera because the American people should see it. And then the question becomes, all right, we've subpoenaed these people. We know that Democrats are fully willing to hold Trump confidants in contempt of Congress. They did it to Peter Navarro. They did it to Steve Bannon, threw these people in jail. Are we willing to do that to Bill and Hillary Clinton and the rest of these deep staters? We better be. Benny Johnson interviewed Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman from Florida.
Very quickly, what happens if somebody fights these subpoenas? What happens if they just don't show up? What are they going to? What's the recourse that Congress has?
There's contempt charges, which we can vote on, and then the DOJ can prosecute, which I'm sure Pam Bondi would love to prosecute some of these people. So there's that. And then there's also the inherent contempt charge, which, remember, I brought against Garland. And I doubt anyone would have the backbone to try to stand up to a subpoena, try and get information on Jeffrey Epstein. So I will happily file those inherent contempt charges.
So we'd file contempt charges. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith. Now, it's interesting. The Fox News reporter that was reporting on this did paint a great picture. I mean, when you hear this, I originally got excited. And then the more I thought about it, I got less excited. I think I'm more excited about tasking federal prosecutors with presenting evidence to these grand juries that have been called over Obama collusion and the Jack Smith investigation of President Trump for January 6th. I'm more excited about those grand juries than I am about this testimony. I'd be interested to see where this goes. But can you imagine the scene, the circus, if you have the likes of, well, the Clintons showing up on Capitol Hill?
Historic move for the Oversight Committee. Just imagine for a moment Bill and Hillary Clinton walking down this very hallway here on the way to their closed-door deposition. That is what this committee wants to see.
All right, that's what I want to see. I want to see Bill and Hillary Clinton walking down the aisle, coming in, getting ready for testimony, putting that hand on the Bible, if they even do that anymore. Take an oath to swear the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I don't think they do that anymore either. No, I think they still take an oath. I doubt it's on the Bible, though, now, and I doubt that people like Hillary Clinton and the Democrats are going to swear on the Bible. So what is at play? In many respects, the Democrats are calling out what I am very fearful of, and that this is all just lip service. I hope it's not, but I fear it might be.
And now we learn that even Republicans are on board with these subpoenas. They're going to press this issue over the course of months. I think it's a really interesting question now what the Justice Department does, because as we're talking about here, they can push back on these subpoenas. They can say, we don't want to give these documents over to you. But are they going to go that far and make it clear that they are really fighting against these disclosures? It's one thing to promise these things and say, oh, by the way, we don't want to release these things because of people are in them and it could besmirch their reputations.
Well, here's the thing. You're going to have to answer questions. Now, when you go down the list of who's on this subpoenaed list from Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, Eric Holder, Hillary and Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch. Well, these are the who's who of the Russian collusion case. I would say do not make any deals with the lawyers that say, hey, we're only going to keep it inside the lane of Epstein. This should be open season on these people. You are being hauled before Congress because you have critical information about crimes committed against either victims of Jeffrey Epstein or crimes committed against America, and the victims would be the citizens of the United States, specifically President Trump and those close to him, and then the American people they tried to usurp. So nothing should be out of bounds. But here's my guarantee. Republicans will make a deal with these witnesses. Okay, we'll just ask you about Epstein. When I want to know from Hillary Clinton, I want her directly answering questions about the Steele dossier that was total fabrication. What did she know? When did she know it? What did she order? Whose idea was it? How involved was Barack Obama at the time when he was president of the United States? All of these questions are very, very serious questions. Here's CNN again.
So it gives them an opportunity to maybe comply a little bit, make it look like they're playing ball. But when I look at this list of people, these are all folks that, in addition to the Justice Department subpoena, when you talk about Jeff Sessions, Robert Mueller, Loretta Lynch, these are all people who President Trump is not happy with, that he would be glad to try to share some of the blame with. I don't see former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker on this list. So I think they're not happy about this, but this is also part of a PR effort to spread blame.
Yeah. All right. Is it a PR effort to spread blame, or is it about getting to the truth? You know, it could be a little bit of both. Now, you're not going to bring Matt Whitaker in because right now he has a big position in the administration. Great guy. Alex Acosta was a pick for President Trump, and then he basically failed in that pick because of all these things surrounding Epstein. He's still close to President Trump from what I understand. But that shouldn't be a reason why you don't want to bring him in. I mean, he could be the key to all of this, at least understanding who inside the intelligence community. Because what I would like to hear from Alex Acosta is not just that the intelligence community came to me and said this. I want to know who. What was the agent's name? Was it by phone? Was it by email? Did they come to your office? And then you go to that person and say, who told you? Who dispatched you? And you keep taking it higher and higher and higher and see how far this goes. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. Now, we do know that the grand jury investigation has been called into the Obama collusion case, this phony, fake fraud of a treasonous behavior of trying to tie Trump to Russia. President Trump responded about that.
The Justice Department now tapping a grand jury to look into the intelligence community's assessment of what was happening with Russia. Is that you have nothing to do with directing the Justice Department?
No, I have nothing to do. Pam is doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. I will tell you this. They deserve it. I was happy to hear it. I actually read it just like you did. I have nothing to do with it. But what they did in the election, what they did in even the last election, but it was too big to rig. But what they did in the 2020 election is grotesque.
Grotesque, to say the least. So you got the 2020 stuff. You got the 2016 stuff. The conspiracy continues. I've said that over and over again. Now, we also have the grand jury into Jack Smith and everything surrounding January 6th. You've got the raid on President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate that Devin Nunes, who was the congressman that really uncovered the Russian collusion hoax, was on with me on Real America's Voice. And he stated that he believes the raid on Mar-a-Lago was about the FBI, the deep state, the CIA, trying to recover specifically one document. A document that President Trump was believed to possess that he had declassified, yet the intelligence community refused to release it. This report in question was compiled by the 2020 House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. That was Devin Nunes' committee. It was called the Intelligence Community Assessment, Russia's Influence Campaign Targeting the 2016 U.S. Presidential Election. It was approved for release by the Director of National Intelligence in 2025. Finally, That's why we got a hold of it. But it was declassified long before that. President Trump had, and it never got released. Nunes believes Trump was in possession of that. The FBI figures out that Trump's in possession of it. The FBI figures out that they don't understand that President knows what's the damning things inside this, that it was the only physical copy, according to Devin Nunes, and they wanted it. So Nunes' assertions, and here, well, let me play for you the clip from Nunes on my show, and then we'll explain exactly what he's talking about here.
That document, I believe, is the one or one of the ones that caused the raid at Mar-a-Lago in 2022. They were looking for that document because that document is deadly to John Brennan, Clapper, all of them, because that was obstruction of our committee, of Durham, of everybody involved that looked at this over the last 8 years. So what happened in Florida, the raiding of Mar-a-Lago, that was started by the archives.
All right, so what he's saying here is that this 2020-18 memo detailed how the discredited Steele dossier was used for all the FISA warrant applications on Carter Page and George Papadopoulos and all the others that they went after, and that the dossier's political origins were not disclosed to the court and portions of the document remained unverified. This 2018 document spelled all that out. The intelligence community wanted it buried. And so ultimately they believe Trump has it in his possession. And so they issue the raid on President Trump, not trying to gather evidence against President Trump. If they could, that was going to be a bonus. But it was a cleanup job. It was a whitewash to take back evidence that was damning against them. You see how everything here is connected. Quite frankly, it's all very, very frightening, to say the least. All right, we are going to talk a little bit about Texas redistricting. I want to also talk about RFK Jr. banning mRNA. This is amazing. So he has canceled contracts for these mRNA shots. This is something we've been calling for forever. In fact, I lost my TikTok account over this. And now it's confirmed by the CDC that mRNA was helping to spread the COVID virus. This directly from our own government now. Before we get to that, let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. I'm so happy with it. I have 2 lines, 1 phone, 2 different networks. The customer service is all based right here in the United States. Switching is so easy. It just takes a few minutes. You call 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service, and they'll switch you over. You can keep your phone, upgrade your phone, get a new phone. They'll help you with whatever you need, and they'll make you a deal to switch, too, so it's not going to cost you a lot of money. Performance guarantee like none other because you choose between the big 3 networks, so you're not going to lose service that way. And again, the U.S.-based customer service is fabulous. But I think the real reason I switched to Patriot Mobile is not for the service, which is great, but it was because I knew the people behind it. I knew the company was pushing conservative values, MAGA values. And I want to be aligned with companies like that. This is why I call Patriot Mobile the official cellular provider of Stinchfield's Army. If you're not with Patriot Mobile, you need to be. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Just go there, make the switch today. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service. 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, and you tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, I didn't know which to do first, whether to go through redistricting or whether to go through RFK Jr.'s comments on mRNA. But, you know, this was so life-changing. COVID, the pandemic, what happened. People were basically ruined over this. Doctors that were speaking out, nurses speaking out. People like me had accounts lost, shadow banned on social media, the ability to make money in certain places that were critical to support my family taken away. And now we learn that mRNA helped spread the virus. Okay? Listen to RFK Jr.
Hi, it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here, your HHS secretary. At HHS, we have a division called the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, or BARDA. BARDA drives some of our most advanced scientific research. It funds developments of vaccines, drugs, diagnostics, and other tools to fight emerging diseases and national health threats. Over the past few weeks, BARDA reviewed 22 mRNA vaccine development investments and began canceling them. Let me explain why. Most of these shots are for flu or COVID, but as the pandemic showed us, mRNA vaccines don't perform well against viruses that infect the upper respiratory tract. Here's the problem. mRNA only codes for a small part of the viral proteins, usually a single antigen. One mutation and the vaccine becomes ineffective. This dynamic drives a phenomenon called antigenic shift, meaning that the vaccine paradoxically encourages new mutations and can actually prolong pandemics as the virus constantly mutates to escape.
Wait. So the mRNA vaccine that was touted as the greatest of the greatest, that was going to save humanity from COVID, which turned out not to be that bad in the first place, helps the virus mutate and in turn helps it spread? This is what we were warning you of, and we were labeled conspiracy theorists. This is what's so frightening about our world today, is that when we ask questions about this and said the scientific evidence looks like this is happening early on in the pandemic, and I'll throw me in with a bunch of the doctors, because I was giving them the platform, because the evidence to me that I was reviewing seemed to make a lot more sense than the evidence the government was giving me. And now CDC scientists, much to their dismay, I guarantee you, these CDC scientists were not happy about having to release these findings. But again, in order to not believe this, you have to say the CDC is lying on the other side. Well, why would they do that? They wouldn't.
The protective effects of the vaccine. Millions of people, maybe even you or someone you know, caught the Omicron variant despite being vaccinated. That's because a single mutation can make mRNA vaccines ineffective. The same risk applies to flu. After reviewing the science and consulting top experts at NIH and FDA, HHS has determined that mRNA technology poses more risks than benefits for these respiratory viruses.
mRNA poses more risk than benefits for the respiratory viruses. That, again, from government studies that confirmed what all the doctors I marched in front of you were saying. Every single one of them was saying this. And now we're finally getting the truth. So these contracts are canceled, saving us $500 million.
That's why, after extensive review, BARDA has begun the process of terminating these 22 contracts, totaling just under $500 million. To replace the troubled mRNA programs, we're prioritizing the development of safer, broader vaccine strategies, like whole virus vaccines and novel platforms that don't collapse when viruses mutate. Let me be absolutely clear. HHS supports safe, effective vaccines for every American who wants them. That's why we're moving beyond the limitations of mRNA for respiratory viruses and investing in better solutions.
All right, so this comes on the heels of RFK Jr. banning these mercury-based, what was it called, Fine Malone or whatever it was called. Yesterday we did a podcast on the whole thing. So he bans this mercury-based preservative in vaccines, and he made something clear at the end, that he is not an anti-vaxxer, that he wants safe vaccines. The question is, how many safe vaccines are out there? I don't know anymore. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. In fact, when I went to Nicaragua, I just looked, it was 6 years ago. I went to Nicaragua to build houses for poor people, basically a mission trip type thing. I got vaccinated up, man. I think I took like 8 vaccinations at one time. And why did I do it? Because I didn't want to get malaria and all kinds of the other crazy diseases that you have in these third world countries. I don't think I had any adverse reactions to it, but I don't know. But those vaccines had been around for years and years and years. So thimerosal is the name of this mercury-based deal. So they banned thimerosal. Now he says mRNA is bad news. That's what this doctor was warning about for a long time, and he was labeled a heretic.
It's at the risk of inducing autoimmune responses, autoimmunity in children. That's why I'm saying never ever use a vaccine that cannot block transmission when you are on the battlefield. If you have a vaccine that cannot prevent the transmission, you cannot control this pandemic. The virus will escape. You cannot win this. It's impossible.
So remember, we found out that this is not stopping transmission even after they told us. You remember they marched everybody out. You're going to save your neighbor. You getting vaccinated will stop transmission to somebody. You cut it off at the pass. Totally false. We now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that was totally false. So what this virologist is saying is if you can't stop transmission with the vaccine, you run the risk now of it mutating and making it worse, and that's exactly what RFK Jr. found out happened with mRNA.
In other words, with this mass vaccination, you're doing exactly the opposite. You are generating a breeding ground for even more infectious variants to replicate. Scientifically, there is no rationale whatsoever to vaccinate children. This cannot be justified. There is no added value whatsoever for children. There is only major concerns and major risks. So we know definitely that the risk-benefit ratio is going in a completely wrong direction.
Now, here's what's interesting. My son's 16 years old. He went through the vaccine process. I wasn't awake to all of this then. If I knew what I knew now, I would have given him some vaccines and not others. I would have severely limited the amount of vaccines, 70 vaccines from 0 to 16 years of age. There's something wrong with that when we were getting 5 or 6. I think it is the overloading of vaccines that causes the problem. And I would have done things very, very differently if I had been doing them today. That is for sure. But here's what's interesting, okay? The news media had one script yesterday. One script that was read over and over again. I want you to listen very carefully because this shows you the media collusion and the lies. They still will not accept fact.
New at 7, the U.S. Health Department says it plans to cancel contracts and cut funding for some vaccines being developed to fight respiratory viruses, including COVID-19. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now says $500 million worth of vaccine development projects will be halted. The 22 projects are led by major drug makers like Pfizer and Moderna. The targeted vaccines are credited with slowing the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. Kennedy says he wants the department to invest in, quote, better solutions, but provided no details on what those better solutions might be.
So that's the first one I'm going to play you. I hope you remember what she said. First off, credited with stopping the spread? No, it wasn't. And in fact, what we're now seeing is that it encouraged the spread and that you got Omicron virus because you took the vaccine and it mutated and it couldn't stop it and it made it worse. Now, remember her script here.
Department of Health and Human Services plans to cancel contracts and pull funding for some vaccines being.
All right, remember that? Remember that?
Plans to cancel contracts and cut funding for some vaccines being developed to fight.
It's the same script, folks. It's the same script.
But he provided no details on what those better solutions might be.
Department of Health and Human Services is pulling $500 million worth of vaccine development funding. Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the 22 projects being halted all use mRNA technology. That's the type of vaccine credited with slowing the COVID-19 pandemic.
Credited with slowing the COVID-19 pandemic? No. Who's writing the script? Is it George Soros? Bill Gates? Do they have script writers for these news stations? Look, I worked in local TV. So I know you pull things off the AP wire that could be something, why this is explained. The AP writes a script. They just copy, paste, and stick it in the prompter with no thought for facts or reality, and we know where the AP stands on things. This is a dereliction of journalism, though. When you see this over and over again, the same freaking script.
Projects led by pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Moderna. While mRNA vaccines are credited with slowing the 2020 pandemic, Kennedy said he wants the department to move away from mRNA vaccines, calling on the department to start investing in better solutions.
Same script. It's unbelievable, really. This is why stop watching your local news. Stick to Real America's Voice, podcasts like this one. By the way, if you're watching now, please like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, whatever platform you're watching, please. That helps us spread the message. And feel free to comment as well. I try to respond to all DMs, too. So just to keep Stinchfield's Army communicating with each other. Very, very important. All right. What am I doing here? Yeah, let me move on now to the wellness company, because I think it's a good reminder that when you have all of this stuff going on, that the wellness company can help. And the wellness company can help keep you safe. This is the wellness company kit. It's got prescription medications in here that they'll send straight to your door. All you do is you fill out the form, twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. You've got prescription medications in here, including ivermectin, a Z-Pak, amoxicillin, popular antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics in here that you need to keep you and your family safe. And then don't forget, when you're talking about the wellness company, their parasite cleanse, twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. This parasite cleanse has been sold out 10 times. There's a reason it's sold out 10 times, because parasites are everywhere and they're in almost every human being. I already feel better after a couple weeks being on this parasite cleanse from the wellness company. This is why I feel better, because this is not growing in my body anymore after this bembendazole and ivermectin combination. These parasites are disgusting. I urge you to go to twc.health/grant and use the promo code GRANT for free, for a 10% off. All right. So now we move to Texas redistricting. This is very important because these Democrats, the runaway Democrats, the shirkers of their duties, the people that are afraid to stand and fight. It's not the Texas way, by the way. They go to Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, the same states that are gerrymandering their states to put the favor in favor of Democrats. Republicans need to stand firm on this, creating 5 new congressional districts that would be Republican in nature, ultimately securing next election season that the House of Representatives stays in red hands. That's a good thing. Now, elections have consequences. Is this playing politics? A little bit. I'll acknowledge that. But I don't care. Let's play politics as much as we have to in order to win and save America. We know the Democrats would do it. This is Governor Greg Abbott.
So that is correct. And, Will, as we're talking right now, Texas Department of Public Safety officers are on the streets looking for those Democrat House members to arrest them and to take them to the Texas Capitol and hold them there until a quorum is reached.
So we got Texas Department of Public Safety state troopers out hunting them down. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to find any, because they're not in Austin, Texas, the capital of Texas. They fled to other states. So now I have a lot of questions. Who's paying for them to flee? We know there's some indications that some George Soros-funded PACs are paying for them to flee. We know there's some wealthy donors that are donating to PACs to pay them to flee. But here's the thing. They face a $500 a day fine. You can't use campaign money to pay the fines. That was a law that was written. A law was also written that you can't just disappear. You can be civilly arrested. That's what the governor is trying to do now, have them civilly arrested, brought back to the Capitol, lock them there, and force them to a quorum. They don't have to vote, but there has to be a quorum present. Wouldn't take very long. You get them in a room, call for a vote, Republicans vote, on with it, and we move on. They're trying to stall. Now, if it is true that someone is paying for their travel to avoid a vote, that's bribery. And apparently they are looking into the fact that some of these lawmakers may be guilty of bribery. Because if you take money not to vote on something, you have now just sold your services to somebody else. That is public corruption. I hope they go after them for public corruption in this case. I also think they should go after them for shirking their duties. Once you leave town and refuse to come back when it is in session, you have vacated the office. Not 12 hours after Attorney General Ken Paxton appeared on my program offering this up.
It's amazing. They're going to states that have clearly done the same thing. Look at the lines in Illinois and how gerrymandered those things are. I think Kamala won by 4 points, and yet 82%, I think, of the representatives there are Democrat. So, I mean, and New York is no different. So the states that they're going to seek refuge in have done the very same things, except probably a lot more egregious if you actually look at the maps.
Well, a lot more egregious is correct. So now he's threatening to get a judicial order to rule that these lawmakers have vacated the office where they can ultimately hold a special election, get new lawmakers in there.
We could also arrest them. That is a case that I took to the Texas Supreme Court in 2021. The courts clearly said, Texas Supreme Court clearly said we can arrest them. The challenge is they've left the state. They're in liberal jurisdictions. We're not going to get any help getting them back. So what can you do? You can either wait them out, which Governor Abbott has done in the past, Governor Perry has done in the past. They always come back.
All right, there's something else you can do. This is the judicial order for the vacate the office. Of course, the last soundbite I play is going to be the soundbite I want you to hear from him, but this is what's really interesting. We know they're in other states. The other states aren't going to have their local law enforcement arrest them and extradite them back to Texas. John Cornyn wrote a letter saying to the FBI Director Kash Patel, we'd like to recruit your help. Can you have FBI agents help track these people down? I would think you'd be better off having U.S. Marshals track these people down rather than the FBI. But if it is public corruption with bribery charges, that's an FBI case. So either way, have the FBI, U.S. Marshals, whoever, track them down and bring them back. Now, that was an idea from John Cornyn. President Trump had picked that up, asking the FBI maybe there's a way to help. But what you notice here is Paxton and Cornyn trying to outdo each other. Now, Paxton literally is engaging in the duties of his job and using the powers that he has. I think Cornyn's trying to grandstand. Why would they be trying to outdo each other? John Cornyn, the incumbent, Ken Paxton, is running against him to be the next United States Senator from Texas to take that seat away from John Cornyn. And I think Ken Paxton is leading in that race right now. So John Cornyn trying to prove, oh, look at me, Mr. Tough Guy. But I like this better.
Or we can do this thing that we researched a few years ago, which has never been tried, which is this quo warranto action that would potentially allow us to take them out of office. That's what we're looking at considering right now. We may go forward with that very soon. We're just trying to figure out what our best option is in dealing with that particular issue.
All right, so he said he's moving forward with it, and we shall see how that plays out. He's given them a deadline by August 8th. That's Friday to return. If they don't return by Friday, we may have big problems. I wouldn't tussle with Ken Paxton. I might tussle with the Speaker of the House. He's just kind of a squishy Republican, though he has done the right thing here. He has ordered the arrest of these Democrats, but he sides with the Democrats a lot. So we shall see. This is one of the Democrats who they claim is becoming a rising star. I don't see it.
Are you concerned that all of this could ultimately be a mistake if that legislation also becomes a victim of this?
So he's asking about, look, part of the special session is to get funding for flood victims. We know that horrible tragedy that affected Texas and all those girls that were camping, those young girls. That could affect how we get things done on that front.
This is a Republican talking point. I'm concerned that Greg Abbott decided to play politics with flood victims and their families.
I don't think it's a Republican talking point. I think you fled the state and you're not doing your job. And it's that easy. And shockingly, this ABC News anchor followed that up with him.
Representative, the reality is the consequence of the decision, regardless of whether or not it's a talking point, is that this bill is not going to advance. Is that a bad thing if this bill doesn't advance?
And who put flood mitigation after redistricting on the agenda?
The Republicans. They control the floor.
Exactly.
They have made that decision.
Exactly.
But there will be consequences to your decision here, too. Will there not?
Well, how about that for an ABC News anchor literally to take it to him? I love it. Fabulous. You don't see it a lot from the mainstream media at all. And it is about time that we start seeing some of that. I'm glad we have, and I'm glad we did. Folks, Alex Stein, he's a good buddy of mine. He lives not far from me here in Dallas. He has been on a tear. He's a comedian. He's got a show at the Blaze, a good show. I'm going to play for you his testimony before the Texas State Senate. Oh, my Lord. Just absolutely great. Before we do that, though, let me tell you about my friends at Energized Health. I have really started to buckle back down and get back on my Energized Health protocol. I went on vacation. I gained a little weight. And now, literally after 2 days of the Energized Health protocol, I'm already starting to shed it again. I just put this back in motion. You may remember when I put it in motion the first time, I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks and virtually kept it off until I went hog wild in Cabo over the weekend. But EnergizedHealth.com is a mind, body, soul program. They've got a My 555 challenge going on, $5, 5 pounds in 5 days, guaranteed. There's also a VIP special, $99. You get an electronic device that will take key measurements of your body, and you get an assessment, these 12 biomeasurements that the folks at Energized Health will assess and put you on the right track. I urge you to take part in this VIP assessment for $99. Go to EnergizedHealth.com. That's EnergizedHealth.com. I've seen people lose 250 pounds. I've seen people like me lose 10 or 15 pounds to tighten it up. But getting hydrated at a cellular level, the way they have it do it, this patent-pending science technology, is really nothing short of a miracle, and it has worked for me, and it worked for so many others. 99% success rate. They've got a money-back guarantee, so you can't go wrong. EnergizedHealth.com. I want you to try them. EnergizedHealth.com. Pay them a visit today. All right. Alex Stein goes to Washington. Not Washington, Texas. I don't know why I'm having such a problem today. And this is what he says.
Welcome. Introduce yourself. Go ahead.
My name's Alex Stein. I'm considered one of the sexiest men in conservative politics. And one thing I want to say, a lot of people are going to hear my testimony. You're going to say you're anti-LGBTQ. I want to say that's impossible because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. So obviously I have a lot of gay pride. But, you know, a lot of conservatives like yourself, you want to outlaw transgenders in women's sports. I disagree. I like transgenders in women's sports because you can gamble on them and win money. You know, I won so much money on Leah Thomas's propeller in that pool. I almost turned DraftKings, into Draft Queens. And, you know, I actually like transgenders in the military, too, because, first of all, transgenders are some of the meanest people on planet Earth, so they'd make a good soldier, don't you think? And then, you know, second of all, transgenders love to do mass shootings. So, you know, that's perfect for a military veteran. And then on top of that, the suicide rate is incredibly high among transgender people. So we could just use them like the Taliban has suicide bombers. Maybe you guys can actually, you know, if you commit suicide, actually help us in the battlefield. So
it's so wrong. I mean, it's so wrong. But yet I can't help but laugh at him because can you imagine him in the setting of the Texas state capitol, Texas state senators having this hearing on LGBTQ mania, and here's Alex Stein coming in with his craziness, as only Alex Stein
That would be
can
good.
do.
So I think we need transgenders in the military and women's sports. Now, when we come to the bathroom bill, though, this is an asymmetrical problem because, first of all, no dude cares if, like, a bisexual woman comes in there and tries to use, like, a pee funnel. You know, some lady boy comes in there, some, stud comes in there, wants to pee in the urinal. No guy's going to be threatened by, a trans woman. But we don't want these gargoyles in a dress, some chick with a dick coming in there and trying to pee or poop next to my girlfriend because that's disgusting. And, I was going to say something. Listen, I have my First Amendment right. Let me just speak. So we're sick of these transgenders trying to invade women's personal spaces. These people have autogynephilia. They're sexual perverts. And
So again, for Facebook, which is going to go crazy where I'm broadcasting this on, this is satire, okay? This is not real. These are stunts that Alex Stein does. But he does the stunts, let's be honest, to raise awareness to the ridiculousness of the LGBTQ platform, okay? And he does a good job of it. And so how this guy gets around, he goes from Austin to, I believe, the United States Capitol, and this goes down.
We just watched the speaker gavel out with a whole lot of anger, Kelly. Here's the state of play. Here's
MSNBC sucks.
Hey, how are you?
MSNBC sucks.
Can I talk to you for a second?
MSNBC sucks.
You can see.
Okay.
You can see the frustration.
Sometimes this happens, and we understand that can happen. And while we love free speech, we're going to...
All right, so that is in Austin. I saw the little bug up in the corner. So that's after his testimony. He's doing... and photo bombs at MSNBC live shot.
I'm going to keep control here. So, Ryan, thank you. Shaq, thank you. A volatile story. We'll be following it. And apparently, not only Shaq cleaned up. Okay. Stay with us here because Ryan has cleared the set, as we would like to say. The gentleman moved on. So, Ryan, let me turn back to you. Nicely handled there. Can you give us an update on, as you were walking us through this, we'll all take a breath there. Maybe not. Okay. Go ahead, Ryan. See,
hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Okay. We're just going to pull the plug there. Thank
Kelly,
you,
this
Ryan.
is all playing out in real time.
It sure
Passion
is
high.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of anger here, as you can see. So we're going to get a control of this and come back to you when we can.
Fair enough, fair enough. And we recognize people are expressing their views, and we're there to cover it. You do that job. We'll move on with our audience. Thanks for your patience with all of it.
You gotta love when he goes by the pimp on a blimp. And he has no filter. He has no sense of embarrassment. He just goes and does it, and he's very successful at doing it. In fact, he's been great at everything he does there. I love Alex Stein. I really do. He is absolutely fabulous. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us today. Real America's Voice show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I urge you to check that out. We got a big show. We're going to talk more about RFK Jr. Doing away with the mRNA vaccine. That is just huge, folks. And you watch, the mainstream media will not cover that at all. I understand there's another shooting on a military base today. I'm hesitant to cover those because it feeds into the anti-gun left. But we may have to touch on it depending on what happened and what's at play there. So we'll update you on that. God bless all of you. Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget my website, GrantStinchfield.com. That's GrantStinchfield.com. Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms. You guys are great. We'll see you tomorrow.